Welcome back y'all to another tutorial on how to make super duper textures for your super duper models. This time we'll focus on how to make the base color for ships, especially how to get the paneling right. Since there is no reference style as there is for Cold War ships, this time the method will be only slightly different, and only for the base color. The rest is done exactly the same.
We have three different materials, one for the sides of the hull, one for the flat aft section and one for the superstructure. The deck and every part that is no paneling has a separate one with no bump map associated that we only need to have to avoid having baked normals where we don't want to. The first node of the material for the hull sides is just an image with some weathering. We then have a couple of noise textures. The one on top is the factor with which we mix the base image with the second noise map. We do this to have a smoother base color as the image we used is too rusty and shit. We further mix our result with a flat color to have a greenish tint. The mapping nodes we have everywhere are just there to control scale and position of the images relative to the UV. Do not necessarily copy these values as they are dependent on the scale of your faces in the UV, so they may not be immediately fit for your model. Now on to the bump map. In this case, we're going to use two different grayscale bump images. The first is for the large panels themselves, the second is for the wrinkling of these panel surfaces. Since these images are made to have the same scale and need to be overlaid, we'll use a single mapping node plugged to both images. We convert these images into an actual bump map by using the bump node. You can mess around with the strength, but I suggest using values in the range I used, as you might end up with shitty results in game even if in Blender it looks nice. Next, roughness. Here he have an edited version of the panel bump image, made this way to underline the edges of the panels via the light impacting on them. This one too needs to share the same mapping node. We then have another unrelated image that provides some additional tear and irregularities. This one will have an independent mapping node. We can mix them together, and use the mapping node to make the panel edges of the two images coincide. To add some further, minor paneling, we can further mix it with another image that's going to weakly emerge from the background. I have no idea if this actually has any effect in game, but who cares? Yay! Unfortunately my UV makes it so the two pieces of the hull don't connect well. I will ignore this and move on. Plug the result in the roughness input of the material. For the superstructure, the first part is exactly identical. The bump map is similar, we just use different images this time to account for the more irregular paneling. Convert them, mix them and so on. Similar method for the roughness, in this case I edited the image to have the wide edges a bit less defined, cause superstructure panels are not as distinguishable from each other. Blah blah blah, it's the same shit. Not much point here in trying to make the edges coincide, but I tried anyway.
À la fin.
For the aft section, same base color. Just one image for the bump, to use more squared panels. Same for the roughness. Now, duplicate your mesh. Remove all materials and create a new one with an empty image with the same size as your final texture. Disable Shade Smooth before baking your textures. Select your main hull mesh, press Ctrl and select the Bake copy. Go in the Render tab, select Cycles, set the number of samples to just 1 and copy the other settings. Make sure Selected to Active is ticked and set a very low extrusion value to avoid weird shit being baked in the bump map. Now, bake Diffuse, Normal and Roughness and save the resulting images. Go into Photoshop. Here I have pre-made some stuff that we currently don't care about. Just watch the previous tutorial for it. For the base color, I have made a couple of things that you don't necessarily need but I keep doing to get the color I want in game. So I have a flat color as the background, a hue and adjustment layer to edit the image brightness. The whole group has intense light as blending mode, or whatever it is called. Link your baked diffuse image, I'll put it in a pre-masked group to hide the parts where the waterline and the red parts go. I'll now add these parts. This time I haven't cut them from vanilla textures, I just made them to be very similar to fit the same style without stealing game assets. Hee hee. I will speed up this part very much so you're not gonna see me struggling with basic shit and rookie mistakes. We then add our best friend, Mr. Ambient Occlusion. No, I haven't recorded the part where I baked it, just watch the other tutorial, goddamn. Add the baked normal too. It needs to be at the bottom of any further bump decals you might add. The specular map is gonna be done exactly the same way as we did in the other tutorial, so we'll pass over this very quickly. Basically it's just adjustment layers that modify the diffuse texture, plus a copy of every window and porthole you have edited to be white. Now for the
pièce de résistance.
We'll add the roughness. The game, however, uses glossiness, not roughness, which is the exact opposite. So, just press Shift+I and invert that image. Now, select the whole layer by pressing Ctrl and clicking it in the Layer tab. Add a new mask to your diffuse map group. Press Alt and click on the mask to directly edit it, and just paste in place the glossiness you just added. This way, you now have a glossiness texture embedded in the alpha channel of your PNG. It has to be both in the diffuse and spec map, but since our spec map is just a modification of the diffuse one, adding the mask to the first one will apply to the second one as well. Now just export all these PNGs and be done with it. Let's check our results. You can see that you have some nice paneling across all your ships. You might be wondering what all the glossy fuss was about. Let's see in a different light condition. D8. Now, this ship looks like shit because it's far from being finished, so let's just spawn another one, the almighty Teondi Revel. Look at this bad boy.
That's all, folks. Have a good day, from your friendly neighborhood John TTS.